Good morning, members. Welcome to the meeting of the panel on transport. It's the appointed time. I've got a quorum. The meeting is called in order. Let me remind us that at 1 p.m. at the dining hall of the electrical complex, there will be a luncheon for all members. So I will be closing the meeting at 12:45 p.m. So, I will stop the meeting by then, irrespective of whether you have spoken or not. So since the last meeting held on the 16th of June, there has not been any information paper issued. Next meeting date, it's the 20th of October 2023, and we're going to discuss the item on 7705TH Trunk Road T4 in Sha Tin. So there is one item for now. If needed, we may add in another item or so. Any views, members? If not, then let's move on to the agenda proper. Let's invite the administration team into the meeting room. So the first item is the latest progress of the Traffic and Transport Strategy Study, TTSS. There are two papers. When the members, the officials are filing in, please press the button if you want to speak. And in accordance with Rules of Procedures 83A, please, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the matter to be discussed, please disclose the nature of that interest before you speak. So can we invite the administration team to join us, please? Welcome, Commissioner. Welcome, Commissioner, and your team, and congratulations for the promotion of the Commissioner. And if the Commissioner and your team is ready, I believe that you have a paper and a PowerPoint presentation. So please brief us on the paper. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. Today, we're going to brief you on the TTSS and its latest progress. In the past year or so, we have done a lot, and it is the right time for us to update members. In the past, the government has conducted 3 rounds of comprehensive transport study, the first one in the 70s. At that time, we affirmed the significance of the railway in Hong Kong's public transport. And later on, we conducted a second CTS in response to the latest development of the airport. And in the 90s, in the early stage of the reunification, we conducted a third round. We came up with 5 strategies, including railway being the backbone, and we promote green transport. And these concepts are still here to stay. And in view of the rapid development of the society, we need to conduct a comprehensive review of Hong Kong's transport structure study. So at the end of 2021, we conducted a transport strategy study. Like we said, we will not consult members when everything is ready or when everything is fixed. We will try to review on our ideas in the initial stage so that we can all come in to help with preparing the best plan. And we should also implement while study. We know that for the Northern Metropolis and also Kaohsiung Artificial Islands, for these major projects, we have to coordinate with other departments so that our latest transport concepts can be incorporated into the planning. So in a minute, we will be briefing you on that front. So for this study, we would center around 2 main themes. First is technology and new energy development, how they can be applied to transport and traffic. And then the second is the deep integration with the Greater Bay Area. Since the resumption of quarantine-free travel early this year, we visited Shanghai, Shenzhen, Hangzhou, and Foshan, and we have conducted a number of duty visits. And we also went to the Netherlands and Britain to learn about the latest experience and developments. And hopefully we would try to consider what we have learned from these trips and then try to apply them in our study. And today we would be all ears to your views and your suggestions. After we collect your views, hopefully by the end of this year, we would come up with an initial transport strategy blueprint. So I would now defer to the acting deputy commissioner to brief you on the TTSS and also the results of the TCS, the Travel Characteristics Survey. Mr. Lau, at the last year's meeting, we reported on the TCS, the background, and the progress of the study back then. And at the same time, we also embarked on the TCS so that we know about the latest commuting patterns of Hong Kong people so that we can gather statistics. And we have come up with some initial strategies. And we will report the same to you today. First, about the overall timetable. In the past year, on individual topics, we have done topical studies, and after the reopening of borders, we visited many cities in the mainland and overseas cities to learn about the latest development. By the end of this year, hopefully, we come up with an initial transport strategy blueprint, and we would also carry out pilot scheme on new concepts. Like what the Commissioner said, we would implement issues while we are studying the issues. And we would also be liaising closely with departments who are working on the NDAs. We would try to incorporate the transport concepts into the planning of these NDAs. Now, I would first talk about the initial results of the TCS in 2022. That started in September last year, and that was completed in January this year. We interviewed 35,000 households and 90,000 members of the public on a random basis, and around 5,000 households have a private car. Now, first, in our study, we found that about 90% of the passengers opted public transport. So that supports our strategy of using public transport as our main transport mode. Now, many more used private cars for leisure social purposes, and for those using private cars for commuting to and from work, there has been a decline in the numbers. And we asked them about interchange. Around half of them think that what matters more is the inconvenience of interchange. So can you speak closer to the mic, please? Because the voice doesn't come through very well. It's better now? Yes, thank you. Now, the survey also showed that more and more people are leveraging on technologies to make the trips. Around half of them have used mobile apps to plan for their trip. And as technology develops, AV technology is becoming more mature. We don't have a major trial here in Hong Kong, but when we asked people about their views on AVs, around 25% said that they would consider switching to AVs, autonomous vehicles. And in terms of integration with GBA, if they still live in Hong Kong and they have to work in the GBA, around half of them said that the longest commuting time per trip they would accept is 1 hour. And this figure is most important to us when we plan for cross-boundary transport network. During the epidemic, in relation to video conferencing and work from home, that work mode has been on the increase. Before the epidemic, around 16% of some of them said that they used video conferencing. But during the epidemic, the ratio has increased to 25%. But for hybrid office mode, before the epidemic, around 11% adopted that mode. But during the pandemic, around 23% adopted that office work mode. And they said that after the epidemic, they will continue to do so. Around 20% will stick to that kind of office mode. So all in all, we combining the survey results and our results of our duty visits, we came up with 3 concepts. We should continue to uphold a public transport-oriented transport policy and adopt a people-centered approach. Second, we should endeavor to enhance cross-boundary transport services and improve the 1-hour commuting network in the GBA. That should be the aim of our planning in the future. Third, we must embrace technologies to develop smart mobility. So we centered around these concepts and we came up with 4 transport strategy concepts. And this is the building a new generation of transport interchange hubs, TIHs, and introduce on-demand public transport mode. And thirdly, to promote the development of AVs. And lastly, and we should move towards application of smart motorway management. First, on the first strategy concept is building a new generation of TIHs. At strategic locations, we should build such TIHs. They should not just provide transport services, but rather they should try to be community hubs, which are linked to people's daily lives, and that can help with the promoting the development in the neighboring areas and the district as a whole. Now let's take Hongshui-Q as an example. It will be the convergence of several rail links, including Hongshui-Q Station, Hongshui-Q Ring Link, etc. So Hongshui-Q is a strategic location for us to build a TIH. Now we are liaising closely with the relevant departments, and so that this TIH can be linked with the northern metropolis in terms of transport infrastructure and land development, and to promote the development in the neighboring areas. So the TIH should be retrofitted with several different facilities like interchange facilities, park and ride facilities, so that people can travel conveniently to the GBA. And the second location is Kaoyichao Artificial Islands. Now, building a TIH there can help enhance the link between the artificial island and the Hong Kong island northern part. And we will also be building a 15-minute type of living circle, so we can build a livable area in that island. So all in all, the TIHs will become a major link in the area, will provide one-stop transport service and meet with the needs of local travelers and overseas travelers. And the second concept is introduce a on-demand public transport mode. Hong Kong transport mode has been mostly fixed schedule and fixed route services to meet the travel needs of a large number of passengers during peak periods. However, passenger travel times and locations are more scattered during off-peak hours, while we've seen double-deck buses carrying only a small number of passengers, so their resources are rather underutilized. So, to respond flexibly to passenger needs and make more efficient use of resources, we propose introducing on-demand public transport mode, say like in Hongshui-Q and Kaoyichao Artificial Islands. The concept is that operators can leverage on technology to flexibly deploy vehicles of different passenger capacities, for example, double-deck buses, minibuses, and monorails, and so on, so that schedules can be planned flexibly, and passengers can request their trip through a mobile application. After collecting passenger trip requests, the operator will dispatch vehicles of a suitable capacity to meet the service needs. The operator can also plan appropriate routes based on real-time traffic conditions and travel needs of passengers. Now, we believe that this new operation mode can enhance operation efficiencies, and so that operators can control their costs better and make their finance sustainable. And at the same time, passengers can travel conveniently around districts in the same area. And the third concept is promoting the development of AVs to Hong Kong. Well, we have particular advantages in relation to AV. We know that Hong Kong and mainland differ in terms of left and right-hand driving, as well as traffic regulations. AVs can avoid operational issues caused by different driving habits, promoting the integration of driving modes between the mainland and Hong Kong and traffic between the two places. When AV is popularized, we can eliminate human errors and prevent accidents, and also prevent illegal driving behaviors, and thereby by improving the road safety as a whole. And well, the AV has been developed well in the mainland, and some major cities have moved beyond testing phase and to passenger and cargo transport. In March this year, we have passed the bill on Road Traffic Amendment Autonomous Vehicles Bill 2022, and the Airport City Link can introduce the service, and it can be extended to Tung Chung Town Centre in the future. So we have plans to launch pilots in that area in NDAs. We would also be through the subsidizing enterprises to conduct trials through the Smart Traffic Fund. And for our TCS, we found that 40% of the private car owners who would like to switch to AVs may use more private cars in the future. So in order to control the growth in the number of private cars, we should be resorting to exploring shared AVs as our future direction.
Apart from developing AVs, we would also like to move towards the application of smart motorway management. Because of our scarce land resources, the road is having fewer and fewer spaces in the NDA. If we only rely on building more road capacity, this is not going to be the way to go. Therefore, we have to leverage on the advantages of technology in order to enhance our productivity in terms of road capacity. We have taken references to both the mainland and overseas case studies. In general, they are building their system based on the smart transportation management platform, and there are different elements. For instance, in mainland China, the focus will be managing the applicability. Then a major focus is to enhance computing technology and to make use of big data, autonomous driving, etc., to further improve their strategies. It will be a little bit different in the UK because they are trying to put emphasis on guiding drivers to use the hard shoulders and utilize road space. They are making better use of the existing spaces. We do believe that Hong Kong can learn from different locations. In the future, the smart motorway in Hong Kong shall have a full coverage in terms of accident sensing so that we will be faster in responding to accidents and offer more accurate real-time traffic information. We also recommend that we have to make use of elements in smart motorway to break through our traditional design so that we can make use of our hard shoulder as running lanes in order to better utilize the space available. In light of that, we are already in negotiations with relevant government departments so that we will be able to apply applicable elements there, including route number 11 as well as the major roads connecting Kao Yi-Chao artificial islands to prepare our future development. In the recent days, we are also going to promote the southbound lane of Tin Kau Bridge in order to alleviate the traffic congestions in that location. This is a gist of the progress that we have made as well as our preliminary initiatives. Like Commissioner, I would like to emphasize that this is not our final plan. We are not coming to the LegCo until everything is finalized. So we will continue to listen to comments from different stakeholders so that we can continue to optimize our plan. Our goal is to come up with a more comprehensive transport strategy blueprint by the end of this year. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Let me read out the list of our legislators. Mr. Chen Xiuhong, Chen Hockfong, Lo Wai Kok, Yang Wing-Kut, Gary Zhang, Cho Soo-hong, Chen Han-pan, Yik Chi-ming, Kenneth Lau, and Yim Kong. There are a total of 10 of them. I will allow 4 minutes, including question and answer. Mr. Chen Xiuhong, thank you, Chair. as there are more technological advancement and innovation, it will be the direction to go for us to develop a smart motorway system so that we can have a green transport. I have high expectations towards the TTSS. And finally, the preliminary results are released. The TTSS is very important for us to develop the Transport Strategy Blueprint 2050. I agree with the three major highlights as well as the four concepts that are being suggested, so that we will be offering good resolutions in light of the latest developments in the transport needs in order to facilitate the flow of both passengers and cargo between mainland and Hong Kong. We don't have enough time, and I really look forward that we can have more discussion in the future. Previously, the Commissioner has met with a number of us so that we can have some touch base. And I would like to take this opportunity to understand more about the TCS 2022. In that survey, you have collected the latest travel information of the citizens, and it is the most important reference for our future strategy. As you conduct the survey, it was the time when the pandemic is very severe. So work from home is the major trend in the society. People also ask, you also ask people about the perspectives in the future. Well, to be honest, no one would be 100% sure about the future developments, and it will not be exactly the same as how it projected. There is going to be discrepancies. So after collecting the data, how would you consider the factor of the pandemic? According to the subjective views, they hope that we can be 100% returning to normalcy, but that is not the case. People were suggesting 4 days work as well as the working modes. I would like to see how are you going to fine-tune the results of your survey. If not, your future strategy will be impacted. Second, about the smart motorway management. I fully support this idea. I have been suggesting to the government because we are planning for the northern metropolis as well as the artificial islands in the central waters. If we are going to plan for this, you cannot keep doing research. You don't do research now and 3 years later. You have to break through from the segregated governmental operation mode. You have to start planning now so that we can put things into reality, including the leveling of land, because without preparing, it will be impossible for you to build a smart motorway management platform. In paragraph 33, you mentioned about the southbound lane in Tin Kau Bridge. You said that there will be a pilot scheme there. I think it is a very good idea because it can improve, it can optimize the control and management. Can you save some time for the administration to respond? Yes, I will be quick. You suggest that we will be making use of the hard shoulder to alleviate congestions. So if this is going to be intelligent, that means you will be turning the hard shoulder into running lane and under emergency. And what will be the technical elements that you will consider? Thank you, Mr. Chan. I'll try to cover all your questions, and I will be brief. First of all, about the TCS. From last September till January this year, we know that this was the time when the fifth wave is over. School has begun and people resumed work. But there are a few things that has not been fully resumed. First of all, we don't have many travelers and the borders were not reopened. Therefore, we are conducting a supplementary TCS to see how the travelers would impact our results, because we have resumed about 50% of our previous travelers' intake. We want to see what will be their needs, because some of them, or many of them, were taking the express railway and not that much the direct coaches. So we will be supplementing all this data into the survey results. Since we resumed to normalcy, we also want to see if the working modes have been changed drastically. There have been some patterns during the pandemic. As we have discussed, we also wonder if the employers would request the employees to work in the office instead of working from home. The issue is when people are used to certain working modes, they might negotiate with the employer to come up with a new working mode. We will not neglect these factors. We have been observing all of these. We are also looking at the statistics. Okay, we have run out of time. The MTR has resumed to normalcy for about 100%, but maybe not that much for the bus franchise operators. We are at the moment in contact with all the project office. We will ask them to spare space for us, or we would like to include some of our elements in the conceptual plans. Maybe the questions will be covered by other legislators. Let us move on to the next legislator, Mr. Chen Hockfeng. Thank you, Chair. Congratulations to you, Commissioner. I hope that you will not forget about the needs of the transport sector. I do agree TTS as in principle, especially the concept of single-site multiple use. It has been something proposed by Chen Henbin for years. I am very happy to see it materialized. I think you can be even more forward-looking. Why would I say so? I don't understand why you have to keep all the new measures in the new districts. How about the old district, like Admiralty, Wan Chai, and Central Mong Kok? These are the old districts which suffer a lot, and they need some new measures. Do you have any plans to implement smart traveling or other measures? Second, I think you are only focusing on the road. But our future mobility shall be three-dimensional, especially the cross-border transportation. In the Greater Bay Area, we are already developing the taxi in air. Actually, this is completely possible, and it is also fast. Why can't we consider that? I think we have to promote some demand-driven transport mode, because if you don't think about it, there will not be any complementing measures, because at least you need a parking lot for these air taxi. Why can't you be more forward-looking? Thank you, Mr. Chen. I know that everything is interconnected. Therefore, I believe that I will continue to be in connection with all of you. Thank you for your support. You have asked about the older districts. Indeed, we need to improve the transportation in the older district. What we are doing at the moment is about the parking spaces, and as we redevelop the district, we would like to offer more reasonable spaces, especially the parking spaces within the residential units. The new concepts that we are offering this time is about the smart motorway management. We will continue to introduce new technology so that we can manage the accidents even better. We are applying this in the new tunnels. If we are running it well, we will apply it to the older tunnels as well. As for AV, we are putting it on trial on certain motorway. Well, given the design of the existing road network and also the dense population in Hong Kong, we can only run tests in some less densely populated areas like the Science Park as well as the airport area. This is not the same for the NDAs. If we are going to install some auxiliary facilities or some high-efficient map, we will be able to introduce these advanced technologies. As for public transportation, especially your concern about the need of public transportation in the island side. I know that the bus operators are trying to make use of different routes in order to meet demands, especially during the off-peak period. We want to offer more vehicle space for everybody without having redundant or vacancies. Undoubtedly, it will be easier for us to apply all these in the NDAs, because the kind of applied technologies will be having better support in the NDAs, including the 5G infrastructure or the auxiliary facilities that we need. It will be easier for us to plan ahead. As for air taxi, I think it is not something that the TD can take care because we are pretty much limited on land. But thank you very much for your suggestion. We can incorporate it to look at its feasibility.
Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I speak in full support of the government conducting the TTSS. In fact, I've been in the electrical for 11 years, and I've been chasing the administration for conducting the fourth comprehensive transport study. Like what the commissioner said at the outset, for the 3 rounds previously, they came with good results. In 1976, we ended up in building the MTR, and in 1989, we embarked on the Lantau Link and a number of other railway lines as well. And the list goes on and on. And for the 1997 round, we came up with the long-term transport strategy for moving Hong Kong forward. So in the past, this was done once every 10 years. But then after 1997, nothing has been done. So it's better than nothing this time. So however you call it, I think this is something good. I think we should pay attention to 4 areas in relation to this study. The first, we have to be forward-looking, and we have to have the big picture in mind. We have to be mindful about the different public transport modes, how they could complement each other. So, secondly, we must go green and be innovative. We must adopt new energy cars. And there are also green monorails and also autonomous vehicles and so on. So we should leverage technologies to help with road management, like what the commissioner said. And then we must also be 3-dimensional in our mindset. It's not just about tunnels and roads. For example, car parking. There has been a recent project where you try to build a sort of circular shape type of car parks going down all the way to the underground. In Tokyo, Japan, Shinjuku, in the old areas, well, they could not be as 3-dimensional as West Shinjuku, but then the 3-dimensional car parking facility there can help segregate pedestrians and vehicles. And then we must also promote regional cooperation. And what I mean is we should try to connect better with the GBA. So these are the several areas that you must focus on in the study. I believe that you are thinking about that as well. So I'll give some time to the Commissioner to respond to the points I raised. Thank you, Dr. Low. Thank you, Chairman. Like what Dr. Low said, these are the areas that we are focusing on. For green innovation, Dr. Low mentioned several points. We would promote AVs, smart motorway management, and for new energy, maybe we spoke a little about it just now. There are 2 things there. First, in relation to private cars, the government said that by 2035, we would just be selling electric vehicles. That will help with environmental protection, and also this gives us the opportunity for the vehicles to go smart, because the electric vehicles are retrofitted with digitalized facilities and can be upgraded easily, and that can be conducive to the promotion of AVs and the development of smart motorways. And we also agree with the going 3-dimensional. Hong Kong has limited space and we have a dense population. Take Hongshuke as an example. There are different railways being planned and in operation, and their interchange facilities are different tiers. And we have to be 3-dimensional in planning the facilities, and we try to link up the Northern Link with all these railway stations and so on. So for the TIH, well, I am worried that you would take that to mean that we are just building bigger PTIs. No, that's not the concept. And also the integration with the GBA, we are working on it day to day. And in our several visits to the GBA, we have taken reference from the concepts incorporated there, and we would try to incorporate these in our infrastructure. So we would be aligning ourselves much better with the GBA facilities in the future. So I look forward to cooperating again with Rosanna and the THB. Mr. Kissinyang, I support the TTSS. I have several suggestions. It doesn't suffice that the TD is working on this alone. You have to study across different departments. Maybe you come up with something which may not be agreed by other departments. So if we talk about green mobility, this straddles across different departments. Well, say, for example, cloud buses. Now, you would like to put in cloud buses, but maybe other departments would express reservation. So is it appropriate for us to introduce it? These are the latest technologies, and cloud buses can help with alleviate problems of traffic on the road service. And all these need studies, but you should not work on this by yourself. You should work with other government departments, come up with better survey approaches, so that you can come up with an outcome which is being subscribed to by other departments. And then smart mobility. I fully support smart mobility and smart mobility management. And the mainland, they also focus on enforcement, law enforcement. And then again, it straddles across other government departments. What about law enforcement? And the mainland, if you have illegal parking, a ticket will be issued to you automatically. So all these need further thinking. And then I'm happy to see that for this report in 2020, you also embarked on a study looking into how we can integrate with the GBA. I think this is very important in the future. We must have 1 hour commuting, and we cannot just work on this alone in Hong Kong. We should collaborate with the Shenzhen authorities. And in Shenzhen, they have been able to achieve a 1 hour commuting network. And we should think hard on how to collaborate with the Shenzhen authorities. Maybe we should build an express rail link and so on. So these are my few suggestions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Chairman. You have said something which is of concern to us, and that is interdepartmental collaboration. And the TD and the TLB are spearheading this study, but other departments are pulled in to help with us. We should not work behind closed doors by ourselves. Like I said several times, we are actually implementing measures while still studying them. Say, for example, Hongshui Q planning, artificial island splaying. We have already started discussion with our related departments, say CEDD, Highways Department. We are working closely with them, and we hope to achieve 2 objectives. First, they find that our concepts are practicable, and if they do so, then they should be reserving space for us to put our plans into their plans. So we've been collaborating with them very well so far. Now this is different from what past practices. We just shared with them after our blueprints have been completed, but now we are talking to them at an early stage. As for smart enforcement and collaboration with the Shenzhen authorities, members can rest assured we are liaising closely with the Shenzhen authorities, especially for smart enforcement. At the panel meetings, we have discussed and tried to gather your support for implementing new initiatives on smart law enforcement. I'll draw a line here. Mr. Gary Zhang. Well, other members have talked about the importance of this study, and I'd appreciate the government's efforts, and I'm happy to hear that the government will come back to us every now and then to update us. And I hope that you can really look at these several points. I think the concept of the TIH is very good. Apart from the Hongshui-Kyu and artificial islands, I think you should also explore Penny's Bay. Penny's Bay is closely related to the development of the airport city because this is where the future railway will go through. So this is a location that you should look at hard. And then I would also highlight the importance of making it convenient for interchanging. Hongshui-Kyu. Well, to my understanding, the Hongshui-Kyu station will not be retrofitted with air conditioning system. So this is a far cry from what you are saying that you will build a convenient facilities. So please look at it, or else you will not be able to achieve your objective. And then connection with GBA cities, you talk about the 1 hour commuting circle. Now, if you look at the map, you can actually achieve 1 hour. But the problem lies in the cross-border clearance. But say if you spend half an hour or 45 minutes in customs clearance, then people will be deterred. So I hope that you can try to work more on leveraging on technology to shorten the customs clearance time. And then thirdly, about AVs. We visited the AAHK and looked at the initiatives in this area. And we found ultimately that Hong Kong is in the best position to develop AV. I think the prospects of developing AV in Hong Kong are very bright. And the paper mentions about promoting shared AVs. I think this is all right, but we should look at issues related to licensing, technology, and so on and so forth. If you can't address problems or issues in those areas, it would be hindering its development. And then again, on demand public transport mode, I think the concept sounds good, but you should be more meticulous in your thinking. Now, whether the cost is the cost effectiveness is good or not. So can you cite some examples to us as to how, whether it is feasible in terms of cost effectiveness? So I'm almost done. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Gary Zhang. Yes. For TIH, we visited the UK to take a look. There are 2 old stations. They are on the road. And if, air conditioning is very costly. But then we will try to use underground space. Will be linked to the Hongshui-Kyu station in Tuen Ma line. So after visiting the UK with a consultant, I think certain concepts from the UK can be incorporated in Hong Kong. And I agree with Mr. Zhang's point about facilitating customs clearance. The task force will look at this issue. And for the land BCPs, some of them are being redeveloped. And hopefully, customs clearance can be made better, more convenient, and we would be adopting local location arrangements. And in terms of documents, can something more be done to help with expediting the process? And why are we advocating shared AVs? We don't mean to affect the present licensees. Why do we want to promote shared AVs? We just don't want people to buy an extra car or so because there is a good AV available. If they do so, then the road will even be more congested. So that's the thinking behind shared AV. And Now, on demand public transport mode, you are right in pointing out that we should be mindful about the costs. And in the next few months, we will be further exploring that issue together with members.
We have limited time for the meeting today, so we have to be more stringent on time control. Mr. Chow Siu Chung, the overall operation environment of public minibus is not very desirable. Therefore, they are unable to offer some attractive salaries to them, so they fail to attract new blood. Last year, on the same panel, I have asked to see if we can replan our routes or offer tax incentives to attract more new operators. And at that time, I received a response by saying that we have to wait until the results of TTSS is released. My question is there any change in the positioning of public minibus system? Will there be any practical means so that public minibuses will have a better operating environment so that they don't have to rely on import labor in long run? In paragraph 7, you have mentioned about enhancing cross-border transport services and the integration into the GBA. I very much agree with it. According to a government survey, it says that the acceptable commuting time is 1 hour. Did you ask them the transportation fees that are acceptable to them? I've raised this question to the government before. Would you consider those commuters who need to cross the border frequently to enjoy some monthly discount? Last October, I have also put this question to the Bureau, and he said that he will discuss with the relevant operator. So 9 months has been over. Has there been any discussion? Did you come up with any consensus with any party like the MTRC? If not, will this be your consideration in the future? Thank you. Commissioner, there are 2 questions. Let me respond to your questions about minibuses. We are very concerned about the positioning of minibuses because we can see how difficult it is for them to operate. We only have very limited minibuses. We only have 4,355 minibuses. We concern about the survival. Therefore, in light of the additional introduction of public transportation, we have mentioned that in the past we rely on the railway as our backbone, and for all the other operators, they are all in competition. The buses might be in competition with minibuses, and the minibuses are in competition with the taxis. Because of such competition, their operation has become even more difficult. This is hard fact. We are thinking of some operating environments so that we can share resources and cut costs. For instance, for some particular routes, we have invited minibuses to be the pioneer. But as there are more people moving in, residents request to have bus routes, and that has caused competition. So would there be some operators who have both buses, minibuses, and other vehicles? Then in that case, the operator can flexibly arrange for different vehicles. During peak hours, they can send out the buses and the other smaller scale vehicles at off-peak hours. I think it is difficult for the minibuses to operate, but we have never forgotten them. And we also hope that in the area of introduction of new public transportation, we hope that we can find a appropriate positioning for them. About the monthly tickets for cross-border transportation, I would like to defer it to my colleagues. In light of the daily commuting needs of the public, we have been encouraging the operators to offer monthly offers, and there are different subsidies on transportation to cater for the need of local commuting. As for cross-border commuting, we also encourage operators to offer cost reduction if possible. But all the other measures would involve the use of the public coffin, so we have to consider more carefully. We will look for room of improvement. Mr. Patrick Yik. Thank you, Chair. I have referred this to the fourth PTSS, but the government refer it to TTSS. But I won't bother to argue about the names. It is very important because the first three survey is only focusing on Hong Kong, which is correct at that time. But my worry now is that we have demanded the government to conduct this kind of survey, and the highlight is to maintain the balance of the ecosystem of our public transportation. There isn't much mentioning this time. When you introduced the paper to me, you have mentioned about the on-demand public transportation. As commissioner, you further explain it. I am even more worried. The situation that you mentioned does exist. That is, you invite some minibuses to offer some pioneering routes in the new districts, but later on the competitions will come in. That is the truth. But then there are some operators who ask if the government is trying to ask the bus operator to purchase all the minibuses and taxi license in order to flexible operation. There is also another question. This is something that you did not touch upon, but Councillor Chang has mentioned, that is about the cost. You know, if you are in the business of public transport, the salary of the drivers has taken up over 70%, even up to 60 to 70% of our total cost. If you are comparing the smaller vehicles and the larger ones, the proportion will be drastically different because the depreciation will be of smaller proportion, but the salary will be of a higher proportion. There is a 5 times difference. In the paper, you are giving the public an expectation because we will be offering some on-demand public transport mode, but you have never mentioned about the cost. It will be at least 30 to 40% more expensive. You did not mention it. It is a mismanagement of public expectation. Previously, when we discussed about environmental protection, Mr. Yao Changhua, the then Secretary of the Environmental Bureau, has mentioned that to protect our environment comes with a cost. This is a message that you need to convey to the public. No matter how good our service will be, you have to remember that you need to pay. You cannot just ignore talking about this topic because there will be a lot of troubles in the future when the reality kicks in. I really worry that maybe all the minibuses or taxis company will be out of business because they will have to sell all their license. Thank you, Chair and Mr. Yik. What I am proposing today about public transportation still have room for improvement. And that is why I explained at the beginning that we are sharing with you our preliminary plans. It is not final. We very much welcome your comments and we hope to do better. Apart from the opinions that you just shared, we also learned that a lot of operators of the public transportation suffer difficulties in terms of cost. As you mentioned, if you compare a bus with over 100 passengers and another vehicles with only dozens of them, the cost will be the same in terms of the salary of the driver. Meanwhile, a lot of larger vehicles will have to spend more on fuel. Even when we go electric, it takes certain costs for us to charge, and it also have a bigger problem in causing traffic congestion. These are all the costs that we have to calculate. As I emphasized in my response to Mr. Chao Siu-chung, we are aware that both minibus and taxis are considered as assets. They do have license. It is not that easy to have someone to purchase all of the licenses. When the license is really expensive, it will be even more difficult. And I hope that the license, I do not hope that the license are cheap because it reflects poor economy in Hong Kong. I hope that you can offer us more counsel so that we can handle it better. As I listened from all of you this morning, I realized that the public transportation in Hong Kong cannot remain in the status quo because without integration and some better management, it will be not the best use of public resources. Mr. Kenneth Lau. There have been 3 TTSS, and it has facilitated the development of Hong Kong society. At the moment, we are putting forth another TTSS, which covered 4 different key directions, including to be people-centric, advocate green and active transport, and to build up a new generation of TIH. We also put emphasis on smart transport. I very much support all of this because to a certain extent, this is going to meet the needs of the general public. There are a few questions. In your plan, you have planned that the Hong Kong, Ha Chin, NDA, and in Kao Yi Chou artificial islands, there will be a new generation TIH. I very much agree with it, especially in Hong Kong, Ha Chin, NDA. It is the convergence of multiple railroads, and it will be the best location for TIH. We have over 30,000 hectares of land in the northern metropolis. If we are going to build one TIH there, it will not be sufficient to meet all the commuting needs of the general public. Will you spare even more land and conduct a faster survey for the building of TIH? Perhaps it can be in the subsidiary area in the northern New Territories, so that the NM highway can be connected there. By doing that, there will be synergies between different TIH. Another issue is that both Hong Kong and Shenzhen is planning to build another express railway to connect Baiyun Airport and the Bao'an Airport. It is a golden opportunity. Will the authority consider to look into another express railway station in the TIH of the Kao Yi Chou artificial islands? Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm unable to respond to your propositions about the second express railway station. What Mr. Kenneth Lau has mentioned is very correct. Just now, we have cited the Hong Kong, Ha Chin, NDA, as well as Kao Yi Chou AI as an example of TIH. But it is not limited to the 2 of them. As Gary Zhang mentioned, the Sunny Bay, especially when there is going to be certain exit point of Route 11. There are also other possible locations. And we are not just developing in the northern part of Hong Kong, also in Tseung Kwan O and West Kowloon. Therefore, the concept of TIH is going to be widely applied territory-wide. But they may be of different levels. Some of them may be as huge as the Hong Kong TIH, but we are not limited to Hong Kong and Kao Yi Chou. Some might be regional, some might be district-wide, but the concept will remain the same. We will continue to develop this concept. Today, we have received a lot of support from you. And if there are any key elements in this TIH that you would like to propose to us, you are truly welcome, because we would like to take reference from your comments. The location of different TIH will be different, and therefore, its design and elements might need to change as well. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Yim Kong. Thank you, Chair. I agree with the results of the 4 major key directions in the TTSS, especially the idea of providing people-centric and efficient public transport services, and to embrace the opportunities to enhance transport connectivity with other cities in GBA, so that it can become the 2 directions in the 2050 transport strategy scheme. There are 2 questions that I would like to raise. In paragraph 7, according to the results of TTSS, the government should endeavor to enhance cross-boundary transport services and facilitate to improve the 1-hour commuting network in GBA. So my question is, while you are promoting for the building of infrastructure and transport system, will you discuss with the related operators so that there will be more offers of interchanging between express railway and buses? How about the monthly fees of express railway. Also, in paragraph 8, according to the preliminary results, it is mentioned that we have to embrace advanced transport technologies to develop smart mobility. And in paragraph 16, you also mention that to introduce on-demand public transport mode additionally. These two concepts are worth promoting. Hope that it will become a reality very soon so that you can serve the public. I believe that you will apply all these technologies in the major clearance point, airports, etc. Especially during the peak period, there shall be dynamic analysis regarding the pedestrian flows so that we can better utilize our resources to arrange for flexible schedules and to enhance our efficiency.
覆蓋
And lastly, for areas not covered by public transport, for example, those in the remote areas like the airport and construction sites of NTAs, for a long time, people there have difficulties in commuting to work. So will the government adopt a people-oriented approach and try to enhance the relevant transport arrangements? Thank you. Chair. Commissioner, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Yim. In terms of embracing technologies, let me say something more. Mr. Yim talked about taking reference from pedestrian or passenger flow to enhance the schedule of public transport services. Well, as technology develops, we are continuing to do that at the border points, at major travel days. We are working on that, and with more data, we would do a better job. As for construction sites and also the airport, people working at the airport, we know their needs for commuting. Hence, at the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and the airport, and also those working on the airport island, we are offering concessions to workers traveling to and from work. We believe that in NDAs, like Northern Metropolis, there will be immense transport demands. We'll be looking at that. And we are also thinking about importing labor. And for local workers, we will try to provide convenient and affordable public transport services for them to go to work. As for providing more buses for people to travel to Shenzhen and for offering concessions and discounts, maybe I'll defer to the department or the bureau to take that. Thank you. The member asked for more concessions, interchange concessions to be offered by operators. For example, for now, MTRL, PLBs, and buses, they're offering a number of interchange concessions already. Now, members refer to the question about XRL. XRL is in Hong Kong is connected to the express rail network nationwide, and the prices are set to align with the mainland express rail line prices. Now, as to whether we can offer monthly tickets, we have to look at that in association with the mainland authorities. We have heard the members' view and we'll explore if there is further room for enhancement. Thank you. Mr. Michael Ten, thank you. First, Commissioner, congratulations. You well deserve your promotion. So let me share a few points. The paper mentions about the new generation of TIHs providing park and ride facilities. The Roundtable has been advocating for this, especially in Tuen Mun, the interchange. There is land vacant, but then right now there are no park and ride facilities available. As for new TIHs for park and ride facilities, how many cars can be parked there? I believe that you will be using automatic parking systems, and ideally, the drivers can put their cars there expeditiously, and before they arrive at the car parks, and they can readily try to arrange for the cars to be pulled out using a mobile app. Maybe you to prevent abuse, and you can say put in the requirement that the mobile app should be activated, say 2 minutes or 10 minutes before instead of 1 hour before. I think this is a good arrangement. So please try to think about it. And then today, for PLBs, they are running on fixed schedules. Sometimes passengers cannot get on a PLB in time, and sometimes these PLBs are left vacant. And I fully agreed the concept of on-demand public transport. And if there is a need, the passengers can make a demand, and when the control desk receives the orders, and when there are sufficient number of passengers, they can dispatch a car, and maybe the passengers are aiming for the similar destinations, and that would make it feasible. Now, I have thought about a slogan for you. Everybody's got a PLB station downstairs, and I hope that you can charge the passengers on a PLB fare instead of a taxi fare in the future. So please work out the sums. Try to work out the sums to that effect. And I know that in Shenzhen there are AV demonstration zones whereby passengers can make an appointment and try to ride on these AVs. And there is a safety personnel sitting on the driver's desk in case of anything untoward happening. And if there are accidents, it will be the car manufacturers who are to be blamed. And the safety personnel doesn't have to be blamed. And the AI companies don't have to be blamed either. So what's the latest development trends in that area? I hope that you can arrange for a trip for the members to take a look at the situation in Shenzhen. Thank you. For park and ride facilities, we will not wait for the study to be completed before we put in new park and ride facilities. Now, for how many cars can be accommodated in a TIH? Well, I think we have not planned for that yet. Now, if we can leverage on technology, i.e. adopting smart parking system, then that would be good. Now, as to whether the idea as proposed by Mr. Tin can be realized, we'll have to look at it and ascertain the cost. Now, as for on-demand public transport, I think the term used by Mr. Tan carries a sort of negative connotation, 丢来嘛 in Chinese. But what we are proposing is that under limited resource, how can public transport be put to better use, and more personalized services or can be provided to passengers? That's where we are coming from. Now, as to whether everybody's got a PLB stand or station downstairs, well, that might not be done. But now, during non-peak hours, passengers have to wait for a long time for a PLB because there are many stops along the way. But in the future, can we make use of technology to shorten the waiting time? Now, as for AVs, we visited Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Hangzhou, and different operators trying out their vehicles. And after the visits, they came also to Hong Kong to talk to us on how they can cooperate with us in trying out these vehicles in Hong Kong. Well, thanks to the members' support, we have just passed the Road Traffic Amendment Autonomous Vehicles Bill, and that allows room for us to do certain things. For example, there are different types of AVs. Some types of AVs come with the safety personnel on board. But then for some AVs, they don't need a safety personnel on board. So I hope that the ordinance can give us flexibility in trying out whatever we want. Now, if the panel would like to visit Shenzhen, we can certainly look into that. Mrs. Regina Yip, thank you. Chair, I agree with what Dr. Low said. Well, these TTSS have to be done frequently. Well, once every 2 years is not enough. The commissioner said that you visited Europe, and I believe that you have embarked on a consultancy study. Can you tell us the expenditure? Previously, we have applied for funding on the TTSS from the electrical consultancy study is around $60 million. $60 million. Now, a lot of people said that things are in Hong Kong very costly, but then I believe that, well, you can do a better job with a greater spending. But I believe that you should work faster and spend less. Well, the difference between the mainland and Hong Kong is that mainland will put in things first and then try to fine-tune it. But Hong Kong is doing it the other way around, which will spend an enormous amount on a consultancy study and then do study and then build the facilities. And by then, the world has changed. This kind of approach, a step-by-step approach, is too slow. How come that we have been so slow in everything we do? We engage a consultant all the time in whatever we do. And I think it's good that you embark on a macro study. But we should not ignore, say, the needs of the remote areas, say those in Lantau, while the traffic at Lantau South Road is very congested and it's convoluted and in the traffic problem in some remote areas is still serious. And now you're talking about something very distant. So it's not good enough. I hope that you have not forgotten people in the remote areas. You try to compare yourself with King's Cross and Jurong. It's difficult to make a comparison there. Well, it would be expensive for us to put in facilities in a small space like Hong Kong. But I hope that you can try to come up with accurate estimates when you build the TIHs. Where has all the money gone? Do we spend the bulk of it on consultancy study? You should come clean with your accounts before us. Well, thank you, Mrs. Yip, for your reminder. We will be very careful with our spending. There are so many future projects. If each project is cheap, then when everything adds together, it will still be a very enormous sum. Now, I agree with Mrs. Yim that we should get things going first before fine-tuning them. People have expectations on us. But then if there are some flaws, even minor, with policies, we will be subject to major criticisms. But anyway, we try to be very detailed in our studies. We try to implement initiatives while still studying them. We have taken on board the legislators' views in doing that. We should be bold in taking things forward before studies are completed. For example, for the Tin Kau Bridge pilot project, we try to work on it first. And for AVs, even if the technology is not very mature, we still try to conduct trials in Hong Kong, and we'll try to Mr. Virginia referred to remote areas. These may not be included in the TTS, but anyway, the Transport Department is continuing with work on that front. And with the development of Tung Chung, we are taking a hard look at the transport issues there together with the CEDD. I hope that you can work on these because these projects are not that costly. Now, the situation that you refer to has to do with the topography there, and the roads there are very old. We hope to make the roads safer, expand the capacity. And then the Tung Chung residents have warned us not to let too many people in the area, so we have to be very careful.
Mr. Tankabu, I would like to share a few points so that you may also consider my opinions in your fourth TTSS. Indeed, you have tackled some major trends in our era, including regional development as well as intelligentalization. But there is another feature in Hong Kong, that is the aging population. It is not some distant future. Within 10 years, the aged population will be up to 30% of our population. The travel habits of the aged population takes more understanding. If they need to take extra steps, if they need to ride a vehicle underground, and the safety on road, etc., all these considerations needs to take extra care. We also need to understand the unique commuting needs and habit. About a year or so, when you first prepared this paper, from then to now, I did not see you shedding light on the travel demands derived from the aging population. This is my first question. Second, in the paper, I have realized a lot of emphasis on the third CBD. So the third CBD is definitely very close to the first CBD. But for the second CBD, that is Kowloon East, is not mentioned at all in your paper. So in your strategic plan, since you have put so much emphasis on the third CBD, can you tell me how are you going to take care of the second one? What are your expectations? Would there be any long and difficult to tackle transport issues which suffocates the development of the second CBD? Are you going to take care of those issues as well? Or you just choose to develop all your new endeavors in the new district because it's just you can do everything from scratch? For the older district like Kwun Chong, they have a population of 170,000, and you plan to ignore them altogether in your new measures. Is that the case? My question is there any hope for the second CBD as an older district? My final question is about your approach of implementing measures while still studying. Are there any practical examples? Are there any existing examples that we will be able to witness in this Legislative Council? Thank you, Chair and Mr. Tang. Let me respond to your third question. That are the existing case study. One example is the smart motorway in Cheung Kau Bridge. We hope that within a short period of time, like the early next year or the year after next, I hope that we would open it to the public for pilot scheme. It will feed us back with better data so that as we plan for some even more major roads, we will be more aware of different issues. Second, the pilot scheme of AV. Actually, there are different types of AV. For instance, in the airport city, and it is supported by the latest legislature, and we owe all your support. We also observe that there are a lot of AV applications in the mainland. Some of them will manufacture the automobile all by themselves. Some others are having some ready-to-use devices so that they can collaborate with some other AV operators. With the legislation foundation, we will be able to implement it even faster. The two other questions that you mentioned are actually interrelated. The first is regarding about Kowloon East and the aging population. We have been in discussion for a while. If I tell you that we have to conduct the study first and then we handle it later, you would think that I am way too slow in reacting. Therefore, the Bureau and the Commission is actually having a lot of discussion with you. Aging population is an issue that we cannot turn a blind eye to. Just now you have mentioned about the low platform and the separation of pedestrians and vehicles. If everything is going smart, how can the senior citizens take care of that? We have been applying a low platform on taxis and buses. We have also relocated 6 taxi stand location in order to facilitate the transport needs of wheelchair users. For some older districts, sometimes we will ask people to pay extra consideration in the use of autonomous vehicles because if it is not being monitored, they will be easily knock down some senior citizens. We are considering all these elements in our daily practices as well as our planning. Chair, there are three major concepts in TTSS, and I agree with all of them. On one hand, public transportation is a critical deployment that we have. If we can offer convenience to the passengers, it will be very probable. And second, we also have to embrace the opportunities in GBA as well as the new opportunities offered by advanced technology. I think it is reasonable for us to move towards these three major directions. And I have one question. First, about the TIH. I have offered 6 possible locations to the authority, and I am still not seeing any response. Since the application of ITO, there are a lot of space that can be released for park and ride or TIH. For some existing interchange mode is of very poor quality. We are at about 37 or even up to 40 degrees Celsius. It will be undesirable for the passengers to wait outdoor. So before all your new measures, do you have a timeline for the rolling out of some revitalization of the existing TIH? Second, cross-border transport. Apart from the express railway, the cross-border buses are also very important. Although more passengers are moving towards the express railway, the cross-border buses are also offering a lot of convenience to the commuting passengers. So apart from the existing routes, what are the future developments of these cross-border buses? Perhaps you need to shed some light in this area as well. The next one is about smart transport. Basically, all our public transportation are brushing up, they are improving. In terms of energy supply, will you include these kind of elements in your future deployments because it involves a lot of land use, like the hydrogen fuel and electricity charging. You need to plan out all of that. In the existing town planning, there is no room to meet such needs, and there has to be a policy supporting all these. Is it possible for you to incorporate all these elements as part of your technological development so that the development of new energy and new vehicles can be well supported by catering to their needs? Thank you, Chair. Speaking of the TIH, regardless its scale, well, for the large-scale one, of course, we have to redesign it, or it has to be located in the NDAs. Just now, you have mentioned about the land released by ITO, or in other existing area in the city center. I do believe that we have to improve or renovate our existing TIH. In recent days, there has been a report regarding the bus interchange in Aberdeen. At the entrance of Aberdeen Tunnel, that is a very small bus station, but it is not very well utilized. We hope that we can put more effort in this location. If we offer a more convenient interchange, then the residents from Island South will not be overloading the Aberdeen Tunnel during peak hours. We already have some plans in place, and we have already submitted our papers to the DC. He asked me about the timeline. Actually, we have never stopped in this area. When ITO has been rolled out, all the lands that are being released, well, actually, it is not that easy for us to build anything on there, but they will be some good locations for us to improve the interchange facilities. Speaking of the cross-border buses, since the border reopens, the passengers of these buses have increased, but they do prefer express railways. The express railway cannot reach every cities. and we do need to take care of the issues of insufficient drivers. The authority is already preparing for the import of labor. When we have a better supply of personnel, we can discuss with the bus operators for new routes. Thank you, Chair, for mentioning about the smart transport. When we pay visits to mainland and the UK, we have visited both the hydrogen fuel as well as electric vehicles. Some people even mentioned that ammonia can be used as an energy. The space necessary for these energy will be different. Let's say the clean energy like hydrogen, how clean is it and how can it be deployed? Our bus operators are also taking tests on this. We do know that it is necessary. When we are planning bus depot in the northern metropolis, we have already incorporated elements like a hydrogen fuel and electric charging. Okay, for the buses, they do have their depots, but not for the taxis. We have been in touch with the taxis companies as well. They need to have convenient charging station, for instance, nearby their where they eat. Mr. Chen Su-hong is asking for a second round, and Mr. Yu Pak Lang has arrived only after I drawn the line. But I am not planning for a second round. I can offer 2 minutes for Mr. Yu Pak Lang. Please be precise. Thank you, Chair. I will be precise. About the 4 concepts in TSS, I do agree with all of them, but I would like to add one concept. That is the planning for tourist transport. As Chair has mentioned, for the cross-border buses, they are all related to this issue. I also concerns about the restricted area. For example, the tourist development in Lantau Island or the areas that is further away in Sai-Kung, including the Pak Tam Chung area. And also in Chateau Kok, we will have some future developments there because there will be a eco-travel park there. These are all the new concepts. I hope that these elements can be incorporated in your study. Apart from land travel, we also have to consider about the water travel. It has to be incorporated in the future strategy study so that we can offer more convenience for the future development of the tourist industry. Thank you. To enrich tourism elements, it's something that I will support fully. That is for sure. If you have any feasible ideas, if it is being offered by the traveling board or if they offer us any development needs, as the transport department, we will definitely show them our support. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for all your questions. Thank you for the authorities in taking care of all the questions. The next issue is real-time adaptive traffic signal system. I would like to invite the administration to enter into the meeting room. If you have any questions, please press the button. I will draw the line after the first member has spoken because we only have very limited time. It's less than 30 minutes. And I hope that the administration can introduce the papers in a precise manner. And our questioning time is going to be shortened as well. Welcome the administration. You may start when you're ready. I hope that you can be precise because our time is limited. Hello, Edward. Mr. Edward McChen-Yu. You are unmuted. Mr. McChen-Yu. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, fellow members. The authority is aiming to seek members' views on the installation of traffic signal system, and I hope that you will support us to submit this proposal to the Finance Committee. we have outlined a series of measures of smart mobility, including smart traffic management. In light of that, we are proposing to install a real-time adaptive traffic signal system. After installing such system, there will be some obvious advantages, and they are suitable at independent traffic signal junction. We are going to make use of AI and the sensing technologies. We will collect real-time traffic information. We will also instruct the traffic signal controllers in order to adjust our signals. Our objective is to respond in real time to the needs of the pedestrians and to optimize the efficiency of our independent junction in order to prevent delays. We hope that we will have a comprehensive coverage and to collect even more traffic data in order to enhance our capability in analyzing real-time traffic signals so that we can improve our efficiency and it will be more convenient for the president to commute.
We propose to create a new commitment of $62 million for installing sensors and ancillary equipment at about 50 suitable independent signalized junctions to implement the RTATSS. And for the details, can I be allowed to ask the TD colleagues to give you the details? We will welcome questions afterwards. Ms. Zhang. CC Zhang, thank you. Right now, the signalized junctions operate in accordance with the preset schedule, and it will be controlled by the linked traffic signal controllers, and instructions will be given to the traffic signals. And these will be connected via wireless network. And if needed, the traffic signals will be adjusted. The time plans are devised having regard to the characteristics as well as historical traffic and pedestrian flows during different periods. However, there are irregular variations in vehicular and pedestrian flows at some signalized junctions due to their locations, traffic flow generated by neighboring facilities, and operation of edges and road networks, etc. Right now, these are predetermined signal time plans will not be able to respond in a timely manner in response to vehicular and pedestrian flows changes, thereby making the most of the capacity of signalized junctions. In 2015, we are embarking on a pilot scheme, and through real-time adaptive traffic signal system, there are real-time information of traffic and pedestrian flows can be made, and green time can be deployed flexibly to reduce congestion and unnecessary delay. You can see that compared to conventional traffic signal system, the RTATSS sensors and computer systems have to be installed, the parts in red. In fact, the sensors are installed at the traffic signals and the computing systems are installed at the TSC. After data are collected, they will be transferred to the TSC, and then AI will be used, and as well as logical algorithms will be used to make calculations of the suitable green time. And our personnel can, if needed, intervene. Now, the common sensing technologies include radar, thermal detection, LiDAR, and optical imaging. Apart from the pilot scheme, in the middle of 2020, the TD has also implemented RTATSS at 8 linked junctions at Tang Chung Town Center. And these are pedestrian sensors to detect the pedestrians crossing the road. Now, the system can detect passengers who are waiting to cross the road and those who are not waiting to cross the road, and appropriate signals can be given to the relevant system. And we say that we can reduce congestion and delay to vehicles and pedestrians by 5 to 10%. We propose that the system be installed at 50 proposed locations where there are independent signalized junctions. The estimated expenditure is $62.3 million, and $48.83 million is used in sensors and ancillary equipment procurement, and installation, testing, calibration, temporary traffic arrangement, and associated civil and electrical and mechanical engineering works. And $7.81 million will be spent on consultancy cost, including technical study, detailed design, and consultancy management. And $5.66 million are contingency sum, which is around 10% of the above two expenditure items. Implementation program. We hope to get the approval from the Finance Committee as soon as possible so that the works we can commence consultancy study in 2024, and there will be tender invitation for works contracts. Starting 2025, we will install the RTATSS in phases at selected locations. And for the entire project, it will be completed by the middle of 2027. There are two actions to be taken forward in parallel. At independent traffic signal junctions, we will roll out the system to about 50 suitable independent junctions. And for linked traffic signal junctions, we will review the results of the trial in Tongcheng and roll out the system to other suitable linked junctions in due course. So much for my presentation. We welcome comments from members. 3 minutes for each member. Let me read out the names of the members. Chan Hak Fung, Chen Siu Hong, Le Wai Kwok, Michael Tian, Chan Hak Fung, Yim Kwong, and Perry Yeo. Mr. Chan Hak Fung. For the trial in Tongcheng, I visited the site myself. So congestion can be reduced by 10%, but I don't think it's effective enough. Have you considered how to make better use of the logical algorithms to enhance the effectiveness? Second, for such a smart control system, RTATSS system, can the data be uploaded to the website to let the drivers or motorists to understand the situation? To my understanding, there is no such facility. Well, people are using third-party operations to get the data. So would you be considering adding in such data through apps like eTolls and so on? Third, for independent junctions, 50 locations are proposed, and as the next stage, there will be linked. It will work on the linked junctions. How many linked junctions do you have in mind? How much more money has to be spent on this? Fourth, a question on safety, national security. Will the system be subject to cyber attacks? And then on the Hong Kong island, we have made an application for changing and replacing the traffic signal boxes. Can this project be linked to the RTATSS project? Thank you, Mr. Chen. I'll defer to the TD colleague to talk about how to enhance the effectiveness of the Tongcheng trial. Now, let me first take the question about uploading the data onto the website. Thanks to the LegCo for approving the funding several years ago, we have added in 1,200 traffic data sensors at major highways. So we are collecting data on journey time and congestion situation, and these data are put on the TD's mobile apps. for public access. And then together with the OGCIO and the observatory, we're also providing real-time weather data and traffic data, and we can make projections for journey time in the next 90 minutes. This is all for public access. Well, this is a treasure trove, as what Mr. Chen said. So for this, our TATSS will be collecting more data, and as to how to further disseminate such information, we'll further look into that, because information is going to be very useful. As for hackers, for this TSC and the central control system, these will be linked up by wireless system. There will be encryption to the data, and before the data are transmitted to the central computers, there is a firewall. Every 2 years, we will be engaging a consultant to do an independent audit on the system. So I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because time is running short. I have to draw a line there, Mr. Chen Xiuhong. Now, for the RTA-TSS, is an important infrastructure for taking forward smart mobility. I'm all for the government leveraging new technology for managing traffic smartly. The paper mentions about 50 locations, and the whole project will be completed by the middle of 2027. I'm bewildered. Why such a long time? Can you compress the timetable further? I have 3 questions. Now, I have raised this before. You talk about independent junctions. There will be sensors and control systems. Well, I think the relevant technologies are very mature. So why do you still need a trial? What are you worried about? I am dumbfounded. And then you are still working on the independent junctions. But the linked junctions will help with addressing the problem more effectively. You will be able to actually gather or associate the traffic signals in the nearby areas at one go, and that will be much more effective. Why don't you conduct a trial on linked junctions? Now, independent junctions, I hope that the government will not just conduct trial on one system. Maybe you find that one system is better than other system. Maybe you can try out different systems on the different junctions. 3 questions there. Please respond briefly. Thank you very much for your questions. For this system, like what said in the PPT, we are taking 2 steps in parallel. First, we will be we have tried out the independent junctions in 5 locations. We have completed the trial, we've collected the data, and at the same time, we are thinking about rolling out the system across the territory, and we will be engaging a consultant and so on and so forth. So this will be taken forward in tandem with the linked traffic signal junctions project in Tongcheng. So we will not wait for the results from the Tongcheng project before we roll out the plan on the independent junctions. How come that it takes 4 years to complete the 50 locations? Can you speed things up? Yes. Next year, at the beginning of next year, once we've got the funding, we will engage in consultant, we will take out the tender, and in 2025, we will start installing the system in the first batch of the junctions. Because these are 50, there are 50 junctions we take forward the system batch by batch. And we are advancing the timetable to the middle of 2027. If everything goes smoothly, we hope to expedite the process. Thank you. Dr. Low, in the last electrical session, legislators visited the Pearl River Delta region and also the Yangtze River Delta region. We learned about the city brains there and how they've been able to manage the traffic in the city. If there are accidents in a certain location, how can the injured persons be taken expeditiously to the nearest hospital? And also the traffic signals can be adjusted accordingly so that the ambulances can take the injured to the hospitals as fast as possible. That was several years ago. We already had that back then on the mainland. Now, City Brain, well, is related to the linked signal systems. In the mainland, they have already completed work on all that. And today we're still discussing RT-ATSS on independent junctions only. And it will take 4 years to complete work on 50 locations. How can we catch up? Oh, of course, I have to support you in this project. It's better than nothing. But then if you go by a pace like that, how can you build Hong Kong into a smart city? How can you promote smart mobility in Hong Kong?
Why is Hong Kong moving on at such a space? I really cannot understand. And your cost is pretty high. You were talking about 62 million for 50 junctions. So it takes over hundreds of thousands of dollars for each junction. I'm speechless, Chair. Perhaps we share the same feelings, but I believe that you don't want it to be so slow as well. Mr. Mack, thank you, Chair, and Dr. Low. We are speeding up at our pace in smart mobility. As Dr. Low has mentioned, we are moving forward different schemes at the same time. We are also trying to speed up. Taking your comments, we have already pushed back our timetable by 6 months. For the consultancies to conduct survey, and we still have to bid tender. After that, we try that we can speed up the implementation of the 50 signalized junctions. As for the link traffic signal junction in Tung Chung, we also want to speed up, and we are going to collaborate with some mainland companies as well. As for the cost, excluding the contingency fund, it takes us about 1.1 million for each. We will try to bid for public tender in order to reduce cost. It will be at a lower cost than our pilot scheme because previously it takes 1.3 million each. Anyhow, it takes over 1 million for each. It is way too expensive. Mr. Michael Tian, I have 2 simple questions. First, in the paper, it says that the sensor can be sensing the pedestrians waiting in the core area, and they will take the initiative to adjust the signal. If they sense that there is no pedestrians there, then the green time will be offered to the vehicles. Here is my question. At the moment, there are certain signals showing the area of the wait zone, because if they are in movements, they will be excluded. We will only count those who are standing still. But the weather is so hot there. A lot of pedestrians, when they are waiting, they will wait in a covered area and they will cross the road only when the light turns green. If that is the case in the future, they will never be able to cross the road because the sensor will only detect those who are in movements. The most basic resolution is to build a cover. For numerous times, citizens reflected that at those busy junctions, there shall be cover so that the pedestrians can wait under cover. Of course, you should not build cover at every location, only at the busy waiting zones. You expect that in the third quarter of 2024, you will start to bid for tender. What I worry is that you will separate it into different districts, and I'm not sure if that will be the same company that is awarded the contract. I have heard that if that company went out of business, the system will continue to work, but you have no way to optimize it. If you want to optimize it, you will have to change for another system. I hope that during bidding, you have to make it explicit. under whatever situation, the company who are awarded the contract for regardless the reason, if they go out of business, they have to submit their program source code to the government so that the subsequent company can continue to optimize the system. We don't want to spend public money to build up the system from scratch. These are my two questions. Mr. Mack, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Tian, for your question. First of all, the building of cover. We have to consider the actual environment of the junction, also the underground tunnel, because most of them are very congested. So it may not be feasible for us to build extra cover. But I am aware of your comments. This is just standardized response. You have been giving me this for years. We will watch very closely in these areas. If there are pedestrians who are waiting outside the sensing area, we will review our program. Perhaps we'll adjust our sensing area as well. As for the tender, I would like to defer it to my colleagues. Okay, I will be brief, Chair. Just now you have mentioned about the programs and different papers that they need to submit. Actually, it is very difficult because for program, it may be even more difficult for you to read an old program and to rewrite the coding. It might be even easier for you to adopt a new model. Because of limited time, I think I am not going to raise questions. I will allow it for two more members, but 2 minutes for each. Mr. Yim Kong, my questions are very simple. The majority of members are in support of such a system that facilitates smart mobility. If there is a automatically adjust system, would there be a ceiling for the waiting time? Let's say the maximum allowance is for 50 vehicles and there are only 5 vehicles there. So maybe they will have to wait for 10 minutes under your system. It is quite unfair because you shall spare the resources of the major motorway for other road users. TD, there will be a maximum time for the green lights. Mr. Yu Pak Lang, thank you, Chair. I will be brief. Smart traffic signal is something that I support. I only have concern about the timetable of implementation. I cannot agree with such a speed. I believe it is hard to accept for all the members here. I also have a question. For the 50 selected junctions, I want to know how do you select them? Is it possible for us to make recommendations? I believe that everyone in every district would like to enjoy such benefits. I want to know how you make such selections. Will you accept our recommendations? Mr. Mack, thank you, Chair. As for the implementation program, as I've mentioned, I will try to compress the time and to speed up. In the paper, we have also explained our criteria. Yes, indeed, we will select the junctions with a great variety within a short period of time. In our selection process, we have already covered the 18 different districts in Hong Kong, except the outlying islands. Well, but Chong Chong is also included in the outlying islands. That's why I said we have covered all the 18 districts. We will also consult the local councillors. They all agree with our proposal. Can we make proposals? When we put forth the detailed design, we will review the list. If you have any suggestions, you can submit to us and we will consider all of them. Seems that members will support your proposal. Well, but there is no linked traffic signal junction, and you are only relying on the visuals and radar signals to adjust the local signals. There are different opinions in this regard, and some of them are quite discontent. Let's see if you will be able to introduce different systems so that the traffic signal can be even smarter. To replace zebra crossing altogether to further enhance our system. I believe that we all support you to further implement your plan. Thank you, Chair. If there is no any other business, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.